Roquan Smith, friend of the show, was on our show 10 times last year. I missed those visits, Bobby. But he went to go visit the NFL Network. And you guys know Roquan Smith's energy very well. We've gotten a good feel for Lamar's locked in, demon mode energy, mama mentality energy. Roquan has another energy. He's locked in too, but he brings a little, there's like a violence kind of energy to him, right? Yes. And it's not just when he's on the field, it's when he's talking about football. Nicest dude on the planet. You're talking to him about anything but football. He's so nice. He's well-mannered. He's so kind. He's great. But if he's on the field or talking about the field, it just feels like pain. So here he is on the NFL Network. Let's go, Roquan.
So you got maybe the game of the year. The entire country is hyped for Ravens-Bills. What's the feeling in the facility going into this matchup?
Yeah, very excited about this matchup with the Bills, knowing that they're a really good team led by Josh Allen, and then their O-line playing some really good ball as well, and then the running back Cook, been knowing him for a very long time, and then guys on the outside who can make a lot of plays. But I think it's going to be very simple for us. We just got to stick to who we are as a group, stopping the run and making those guys one-dimensional, and once you do that, it can create a long day for those guys.
You handled them pretty well earlier in the season. I think it was week 4. You slowed down the run. You got to Josh Allen a few times. How much of that, when it happens that early in the season, how much of that game can be carried over right now?
That game was that game, and that's week 4, and that was week 4 for a reason. We're not the same team that we were back in week 4. I looked at the film, and I'm like, man, we was playing like this, and I'm sure those guys feel the same way for themselves. So it's about coming out and imposing our will on those guys from the first snap to the last snap. It's very simple, making them one-dimensional, and that's what the run game is about, testing a guy's manhood. So those guys pride themselves on running the ball and to open up everything else for Josh Allen. So we stopped that, and it can be a long day for those guys. So that's our primary focus, and once we do that, it's going to be a long day. But I'm very excited. We'll definitely get up there Saturday afternoon, and we'll be there Sunday night.
Some fantastic screenshot work by you. Take a look. Let's just pause that and leave that right there. Roquan in mean mugging mode, Roquan in violent mode, and this is days prior to the game. Sarah, I love the screenshot, and you heard the man. Quote, it's about coming out and imposing our will on those guys from the first snap to the last snap. That's what the run game is about, testing a guy's manhood. Once we do that, it's going to be a long day, essentially referring to, hey, if we make Buffalo one-dimensional, I like our chances. Well, Buffalo Fanatics, which is a Bills-based Twitter account, decided to take a few of his words out of context and try and make up, perhaps even laughably make up, Sarah, a little bit of bulletin board material. And what they singled out was that Ravens linebacker Roquan Smith says it's, quote, very simple to stop the Bills offense, with a thinking emoji and okay, ... as if to say we're going to stir the pot here with a little bit of fake outrage, as I like to say. And part of the first thing that comes to mind is his actual comments, which were, it's going to be simple for us strategy-wise if we do what we're supposed to do, meaning we know what we have to do in order to beat them. It's not simple to beat them. What we know we have to do to beat them, that's a simple comprehension process. Is that the way that you interpreted that as well?
Sorry, I lost my audio there for a second. I couldn't hear you and I couldn't do this, but I know what was said here. First of all, what's hilarious to me about this tweet is that if you wanted bulletin board material, I feel like there was plenty out there, like Lamar Jackson saying we're not friends. Like, I'm not friends. I'm not trying to be, Josh Allen's friend. Or heck yes, I remember getting, beat by the Bills. Or in this clip, Roquan Smith saying we're going to test their manhood, right? Like, there was all of that. But instead of like highlighting that stuff, which would have gotten your audience amped, maybe none of it was like, disrespectful, but like he's saying, I'm coming into your house. This is your home. And he had that Chris Broussard kind of energy, right? where it's like, I'm coming into your house. I'm going to kick up my feet. I'm going to tell you to put on the Wired on TV. I want a sandwich. I want chips. And don't forget my soda pop. That was the type of energy that Roquan Smith brought to that. He's mean mugging, and I'm going to test your manhood. We know our manhood. We know what our manhood is, but what's your manhood? So if you wanted to hype your audience up, you could have taken that, but instead they chose the route of pretending that he said, oh, it's very simple. It's very simple to stop the Bills offense. That is not what he said. By the way, simple and easy are two different things. They asked, what are you going to do? And he says, it's simple. We're going to be us. So to them, the formula, they're not trying to overcomplicate it. It's simple. We got to be us. We can't let them dictate to us who we are. You know, they've been physical. They've been tough. They're the number one rushing defense in the league. And so that's their goal every single time, Bobby. And that's what it's absolutely got to be. We have to make them one-dimensional. And by the way, that's the goal against all NFL teams. That's been the goal for as long as I've been watching football. You try to make a team one-dimensional. Because if you're able to do that and you put Josh Allen in situations where he does have to be Superman, because as much as Bill fans try to pretend, James Cook is not garbage. He does indeed lead the league in rushing touchdowns. And so as good as Josh is, and he's having an MVP caliber season also, although, as you know, I think Lamar should win it. I think that Lamar was MVP plus, right? And so, but he is having an MVP caliber, and Josh is going to get his. And so the Ravens don't want to help him by allowing him to have a run game also. And so you're the number one rushing defense. The formula is simple. Keep that up. Make him one-dimensional and see how often Josh can make explosive plays on his own versus how consistently Lamar and Derek can take their duo and make explosive offensive plays on their own. So it's just hilarious to me that that's what they chose to try to find bulletin board material when the man said, I'm going to come into your house and test your manhood.
It's soft and it's also like strange, right? Like in terms of the priority list, in terms of what Roquan gave you throughout that clip, that's like the least of the least that was worthy, you know?
Right.
And then on top of that, whether you're a fan or like this content account that we just shared or anybody in that locker room, if you need bulletin board on Sunday night, Sarah, you probably got bigger issues. Because
I agree, but I actually that line people use a lot, and I actually don't agree with it too much. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and a lot of people hear what you're saying because they say it a lot. But they said the same thing when Mike Florio on Christmas night said that the 49ers were going to kick the S out of the Ravens, right? And so it's like, none of that hurts. You're already amped, but now you just got it. Somehow I thought I was amped 100%, but somehow you just squeezed out a little bit more. So I don't know that the Bills need it, but that stuff definitely helps. Cause this is like week in and week out, your bodies are hurting and all that kind of stuff. So I hear what you're saying, but this stuff does play in locker rooms.
That now brings us to the national media section, Sarah. And of course, Lamar's legacy has been talked about a lot entering into divisional round weekend, as has Josh Allen's. You brought this in from Stephen A. Smith. What went on ESPN today?
So they were talking, this was yesterday, but they were talking about Lamar's legacy. And it actually wasn't compared to Allen. They were comparing it to Mahomes and what a Super Bowl, who would have a bigger impact, a Super Bowl win, who would it have a bigger impact on? And I agree with Stephen A. Smith on this one, to be honest.
Lamar. To me, it's Lamar. I understand Mahomes, 3-time Super Bowl champion, I'm 3 back-to-back. But I'm just looking at Lamar from the standpoint, the greatness that we already associate with him. We've already validated Mahomes' greatness. He's already recognized as the greatest, arguably the greatest quarterback who ever lived. Lamar Jackson goes out there and wins a Super Bowl with all the other things we've already seen him do. All of a sudden, he's in a conversation, solidified as one of the greatest quarterbacks who have ever played in the National Football League. And when you combine the mercurial skills that he brings to the table, it's already changed the game to some degree because everybody's looking for quarterbacks that are dual threats. but you'll certainly salivate over them even more if Lamar Jackson goes out there and proves he can get it done come playoff time and win you a Super Bowl. If he can do that, I mean, I just think it changes, elevates him to a stratosphere that he could never reach if he doesn't win a championship.
Bobby, this is why I've been so pounding the table for a third MVP. When I just don't feel like people saw the bigger vision, because these type of awards, while Lamar, of course, is focused on the team, and this game this week, and then that game the next week, and then the next, you know what I mean? That's the way professional football players should be. They shouldn't be worried about that. But if you don't think it matters, that's why Marlon Humphrey is like, we are going to go out there and do the best on defense, not just to win the game, but to make sure the narrative is on our QB side. And so if you have 3 MVPs, which based off of the All-Pro voting, it seems like Lamar will get his third. And then you put a Super Bowl on top of those 3, you are instantly talked about as one of the greatest of all time. And so you compare that to Mahomes, I get that would be massive for him, because for him, he becomes the one and only quarterback in history to win 3 in a row. Tom Brady didn't do that. Peyton Manning didn't do that. Unitas didn't do that. You know what I mean? You can go back. Nobody's done that. So that would be massive for his legacy for sure. But he's already considered one of the best of all time, given what he's already done. And so for Lamar, for Mahomes, it would be like one more tiny step up. Whereas for Lamar, it goes from, oh, he got all those MVPs, but he didn't win the Super Bowl. So was he really one of the greatest, or is he just one of the greatest in the regular season? You add a Super Bowl onto that, it puts his legacy in another stratosphere. So doesn't always happen, but on this one, totally agree with Stephen A. Smith.
The context here on what Mike Florio had to say on Pro Football Talk has to do with what Rex Ryan said, Sarah, about the Chargers-Texans game in Wild Card Weekend last week. And that was what he felt like, from a Los Angeles perspective, should have been a bye week. Well, it was anything but. Houston takes care of business, sends Justin Herbert 4 interceptions, and the Chargers home, 1 and done. So those were some pretty significant words there, obviously, some harsh words from Rex. Chris Sims, to go into his co-host, coming to his defense, I guess, Mike Florio from a year ago, was like, wait a second. You said some pretty harsh words, I'm not denying that, about the Ravens going into that Christmas night game last year. How come there wasn't the same blowback online that you received? And he used the words, you were eviscerated last year. Yes, he was, Mr. Florist. And how come Rex Ryan didn't get that same kind of treatment? So that's the context coming in here.
Okay.
And Mike, in a rather self-deprecating way, I thought, had a hilarious segment earlier today as they were getting ready for this divisional round game. Listen to this.
Doesn't know and doesn't care that he's the PFT MVP for 2 straight years. He doesn't know and doesn't care that I voted for him for MVP last year. I guess we're still not supposed to say who we voted for this year, but regardless, I don't have out any hope of having a friendship with Lamar Jackson. I think he's already decided who I am and what I am.
Oh, no, I disagree.
I am a man who sells flowers.
Yeah, that's all right. I think if Lamar saw you, Lamar, I don't think he gives a damn. He lets it roll right off his shoulders. All he wants is Super Bowl. That's all he wants. And I think if Lamar was around you, he'd laugh about it and rib you and make a little fun of you and talk some crap, and that would be about it.
Okay.
Sarah, Mike Florio, I don't hold out any hope of having a friendship with Lamar. I think he's already decided who I am and what I am after last year. I'm a man who sells flowers. That's good. That's a good one.
Mike Florist. Okay. First of all, I think I actually kind of agree with both of them. Listen, if Lamar Jackson was asked about Josh Allen, his draft mate from 2018, and I'm sure, and he's got a ton of respect for Allen, right? Especially with what he's done. He even says, once they're retired, like they're going to be cool. But he's like, I'm not hanging out. I'm not trying to be friends with Josh Allen. I'm trying to beat Josh Allen. So if he's not going to be willing to be friends with Josh Allen, I promise you, he's not trying to be friends with Mike Florio. Now, half of what Chris said is true. He says Lamar would let it roll off his back, and he would. We saw him with Pollard. Remember, he got into it with Pollard, and they were going back and forth.
Bernard.
And yeah, Bernard. Yes, and they were just going back and forth. And then Lamar's like, yeah, but because Lamar doesn't harbor bitterness. He doesn't harbor anger. That's not the type of guy he is. He harnesses stuff to channel it to win. But he's just a happy guy. He's not bitter or angry. But that being said, he also doesn't like want a ton of friends. You know what I mean? So I think he probably would be cool with Mike down the road. But friends, I think that Lamar's pretty selective for those that hit like the friend level.
I got a kick out of that. The first thing I thought of was, well, Rex is kind of known for those statements,
Yeah.
you know? And it's not that Mike can't speak out of turn from time to time. Like he definitely does. And sometimes it goes viral and sometimes it doesn't. But there is a difference between Rex Ryan and Mike Florio, obviously. And so
yeah,
but
Rex still should have been called out for it.
For sure.
He called it a bye and then they lost.
For sure.
So.
Called it a bye week. And then what did Houston do? Marches on to the divisional round for a chance to
right.
take out Goliath coming up this weekend.